because that'll be obvious to the audience, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, this is Bill Ulibarri, the blockchain advisor here at Voice of Blockchain with Mark Longo, the founder of the Options Insider, longtime friend, former market maker and trader at the Chicago Board Option Exchange.
Don't hold that against me.
I won't hold it against you. That's what makes us kindred spirits.
Yes. We share the same pain.
So we're here just to talk a little bit about this new evolution in cryptocurrency. So, Mark and I both share a long-time passion and expertise in options trading, but really we're beginning to see the formation of a new asset class, that being cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin futures, potentially Bitcoin ETF and options, and VIX type products on Bitcoin. And while we still think there's a few years away, we just want to touch base on this topic through the lens as former floor traders and market makers. So, Mark, thank you for being here, and tell me a little bit about your background first.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I was a market maker on the CBOE, seems like many years ago now, and I've since, in the last decade or so, been doing running the Options Insider Media Group, doing a lot of what you're doing now on the other side of the microphone, talking to people in the options and derivatives world about what's trading, what's going on, what's happening, and as you might imagine, a lot of that conversation these days is centered and focused on crypto. That's kind of where the interest is. That's kind of where, particularly for where we are now, we're in the heart of an event in the middle of Chicago, and the Chicago trading community, a lot of the guys that do or used to do what you and I used to do are deeply excited about this new kind of crypto evolution. The Chicago trading community has been waiting for a long time for, I guess, what you can call the next iteration for the space, the next product category can really get people excited, that could provide some opportunity for professionals out there to really make a living, provide value, and it seems like whether people have issues with the underlyings or not, and I could certainly see how they could in the crypto space, crypto has fallen into this space like a bomb, and it's been very, very well received because, again, if you have issues with the underlying or not, it's tradable, and no one can argue that it's not tradable, and that's what attracts people to it. And we're seeing a lot of firms in the Chicago community pivoting into trading these products now, so much so that I would haphazard to say that Chicago has become the trading hub for a lot of crypto, particularly here in the U.S. There was this latent, pent-up talent pool of derivatives traders who were waiting, and crypto came along at exactly the right time. And I think now we're all at the panel we were just on this morning. We're all kind of waiting and hoping for more products in the space. Right now we have, in terms of derivatives, we have listed Bitcoin futures on CBOE and CME, and they're doing decent volume, probably more than anyone expected at this point, particularly the CME contract. It's a hefty contract. It's a 5-coin contract, and yet it's doing very good volume. Not enough that the SEC is going to approve a ETF, apparently. They're still waiting for that. So that's been a surprise, but I think we're all waiting for the next step, what that would be. And that's kind of what we were talking about this morning. Should that be Bitcoin options? A lot of people, myself included, think that probably should be. I think you're probably in that camp as well. Build up the vertical a bit, make a healthy vertical first, and then expand out. Others say, maybe we should expand into other coins first, Ripple futures, Litecoin futures, Ether futures, build out that ecosystem, and then let the options follow afterwards. So it seems like there's maybe a little bit of a strategic schism going on in the space right now, but there definitely is interest.
But we have to walk before we can run. So before we get Ripple and Ethereum and other cryptocurrency futures, options, ETFs, we need to be able to establish a benchmark, something that we can look back and say, hey, this worked well. As I was saying on the panel, when the OEX S&P 100 first came out on the market, I was very skeptical. When we went from 3-month option expirations to 1 month, I was incredibly skeptical.
You weren't intrigued by the 1.5 that didn't excite you?
I wish I would have been. When we see the VIX product, we all we had the VIX up on our screen. We looked at it every single day. That was just the at-the-money straddle back then.
I don't think anyone saw VIX coming. That's been the surprise of surprises.
When I heard that VIX was considered an asset class, I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? VIX in asset class? No, assets are gold, silver, things you can touch. But VIX is like this number we just created. And now there's billions, if not trillions of dollars are being managed with options, selling strangles as a way of keeping up with modern portfolio theory of getting long on the way up and short on the way down in bonds, in stocks. So it's very, very interesting to have this lens of financial services and in trading, and then overlay that on what we see in cryptocurrency. And I think we're going to do it. It's like this self-fulfilling prophecy, in my opinion.
Yeah,
do you feel the same way?
I think so. I think we're hitting that critical mass now. I would I think everyone would have loved to have a Bitcoin option maybe 6 months ago. How nice would have been to have ridden that down from 20,000 down to 6. That would have been nice. I mean, I've lost track of how many questions we get on our network on a regular basis. You know, what would the option skew look like if there were options right now? How would they be trading?
All night
yes,
long.
yes, exactly. It's what puts us all to sleep at night. But there is a lot of interest in that, you know, and I've had interesting discussions and arguments with people about that. Some people say no, it's going to be heavily bid to the calls because all these crypto zealots would buy it up. Some are saying no, it'd be more like an index investment skew because the puts would be bidded, the calls would be offered. Everyone would be kind of putting collars on this thing. And I've seen arguments for smiles. So I would love to see. I know there are some platforms, I think Deribit and a few others, that list some things now, so you can kind of intuit from that. But I would love to see these things listed. So at the very least, I could have answers to these questions, so I wouldn't have to keep arguing with our listeners all the time.
I think it would make a great show because I could make an argument that I think it should look like a commodity skew, where we have this downside hockey stick, where once we get to a certain level in Bitcoin, the miners are just frankly going to stop mining, therefore creating less supply of tokens. So it's almost like corn or wheat or soybeans, where there gets to be this level where it's just going to stop going down because people are going to stop growing it, and make sure that we have our float setting set right because we don't want to buy too much on the way down. We don't want to be too short on the way up, depending on how the curve looks. So it's a great conversation. I think we could do like an hour-long episode.
Spoken like a true risk manager. You got to manage your float down the way down. But you're right, that would be fascinating. I mean, I could make arguments for many other types, and I think they would all be equally valid because we don't have any real answers right now. And I think that's another reason to have these things listed out there. So you have a viable product. You let retail have some access to, have institutions have access to it. Obviously, having a derivative on the underlying helps solve some of these custody issues and everything else that people are still trying to work out, trying to help bring these stumbling blocks that are keeping institutions from really embracing crypto en masse. Maybe a derivative is kind of a bit of an end run around that, so that could help from that perspective as well. So yeah, I'm with you. I would love to see a healthy, robust vertical in Bitcoin options. If for no other reason, then that would answer a lot of the email we have coming in right now. What about Bitcoin options? I mean, I don't know. I lost track of how many a day we get on that.
Are you kind of excited about perhaps even pivoting your own business, or do you find that your love and your passion still is with option trading and options, the options inside?
I like obviously options is in the name. It pays the bills, so we like it. But personally, we have about a dozen different shows on the network carving up the options and derivative space in a number of different ways. Futures options, equity options for retail, educational stuff for asset managers, volatility, technology, you name it, we have something on there. But this is a completely different category now, a completely different asset class. And that's something we've been talking about for a while. Where is an area we could expand to that would be new and different for the audience and for us as well? Not that we mind talking about Apple upside all the time, but or puts in a SPY, but something else would be nice. So that's certainly welcome for me. And we're talking about doing that. We're in the planning process now of having and putting together some content that will speak to this audience. And right now it's obviously a very limited derivatives audience. It's the listed futures. But as that grows, I think speaking to the growing audience of just the people who were here at our panel today and who came up to me afterwards expressing all sorts of interest in seeing more products go. And clearly that was one of the more well-attended sessions they had here. So clearly there is a deep demand for these products. So yeah,
I still find being here at a blockchain conference and the conversation concerning cryptocurrencies, it still comes from that do-it-yourself kind of mentality. There's still people here, they buy their own crypto, they hold it in their own cold wallet or off exchange, and which is encouraging because primarily you and I are probably the oldest guys here at the event. It's a young vibe, it's a young mentality. They're very suspicious really of the exchange and centralized business. But at the same time, I see the exchanges like the CME Group and CBOE almost laughing at the Occupy Wall Street people saying, hey, thank you for bringing us Bitcoin and Bitcoin idea, and we're going to monetize it greater than all you guys with the white mask on.
Yeah, it is. We talked about this on the session as well. There is still this kind of culture clash going on where crypto was obviously born in, I think Matt joked he first learned about it in 2010 at a libertarian, like a homeschooling guy. That's where you learned about crypto in 2010. That's where this movement was born, kind of the anarchist, libertarian tech side of the space. And now it's being brought into what is probably the most heavily regulated system in the country. And so you have this completely square peg going into this completely round hole and trying to make these things work together You know, you have this kind of the Chicago trading mindset, which is being brought to bear now on the space. You have the kind of the regulators and kind of the listed, what a lot of the people in the crypto space refer to as the legacy, the legacy financial space. I love all the terms they have: fiat, legacy, everything has to have some sort of descriptor in front of it. So the legacy financial space, how it's coming to terms with that. There are people out there still, the true believers, who don't think crypto belongs in any of this stuff. It was created as a counterpoint to this sort of centralized trading and ecosystem, and they are still out there and they still have a voice. So I think merging these two with the people here who clearly have seen that this is a tradable product they could bring value to, they can bring liquidity to, price discovery to, they could tamp down volatility. There's value to that as well. So it's going to be an interesting feeling out period as we find that middle ground. Yes.
Because I find the tug of war even within my own self is that on one hand, I'm really excited about the potential of having a Bitcoin ETF and being able to provide it as an asset class, a non-correlated asset class to my clients as an investment advisor. On the other hand, I kind of feel that Bitcoin and Bitcoin ETF would kind of be like, you know, all these people found out about my favorite restaurant that nobody knew about.
Your favorite band is suddenly popular. Yes, exactly. You don't want to go see them anymore. They're not fun anymore.
Exactly.
They sell out shows now. I don't want to go see them. The same thing. You're right. There is a lot of that. I'm sure people who were there back when Bitcoin was, you know, a fraction of a cent. They're deep in that crowd saying, I don't want any of these people to play in my party. But you're right. There is value that this brings to it in terms of volume. Like I said, liquidity, tamping down volatility. People would like to be able, I'm sure, to trade more size, have more liquid markets in this space. I don't think people really like having, you know, have to go 15 different quote unquote exchanges for different bids and offers and trying to match all that up. The wallets, the way they work right now, is antiquated compared to modern financial services. You know, you hear the horror stories of, you know, executing quote unquote a trade and waiting for that to clear and the funds to change, and it leaves your wallet right away, but when the funds come back, it's in the ether. It could be minutes, hours, sometimes days.
I have to wear a Fitbit to keep track of my heart rate when I'm
exactly. It's people have this moment of terror, you know, and whereas we're used to in the modern, you know, financial ecosystem, you know, sub-second execution. So that is an eternity. So there are a lot of efficiencies that can be brought to the table, you know, outside of the competing mindsets that are kind of at loggerheads right now.
Well, the future looks good and it's really exciting.
It does.
I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Having this quick interview with me and the quick chat. This is Bill Ulivari, the blockchain advisor with Mark Longo from Options Insider. Mark, if people wanted to get in touch with you or follow your podcast and your content, how would they do that?
We're pretty easy to find on most of the major social media platforms. Just look for @options, that's us, or just go to theoptionsinsider.com and you can find more of all this good stuff we're talking about right here.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Look at you.